Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mr. Daily Speak English. I'm Emily, and as always, I'm really happy to be here with you today. It's great to spend time together and learn English with you.
Hi, Emily, and a warm hello to all our amazing listeners. I'm David, and I'm ready for another fun English learning episode. Today's topic is a really interesting one.
That's right. In this episode, we're going to talk about our daily routines in the past, what our everyday lives used to look like when we were younger.
Yes, it's almost like taking a small trip back into our memories. We'll share the things we used to do every day and how our routines were different from now.
Exactly. And this is also a great way to practice using the past simple tense in English.
But before we continue, a little reminder for our wonderful listeners. If you're enjoying our lessons and find them helpful, please consider subscribing to Mr. Daily Speak English. Your support really helps us create more useful content for you.
And don't forget to like this episode and leave a comment below if you'd like to say hello or share your thoughts. We always love reading your feedback.
All right, so Emily, when we talk about daily routines in the past, where should we start?
Well, maybe we can each describe what a normal weekday looked like for us when we were younger, perhaps when we were still in school.
That sounds like a great place to begin. Let me think back for a moment. When I was in high school, my daily routine was very different from my life now. I used to wake up really early, around 6:30 in the morning.
Wow, that's quite early. I used to wake up a little later than that. So, what did you usually do right after waking up?
After waking up, I normally took a quick shower and then got dressed for school. My mom always prepared a big breakfast for me. Most of the time, I ate toast with jam and drank a glass of milk.
That sounds like a nice, classic breakfast. For me, it was a bit different. I often had cereal or yogurt in the mornings, and I didn't wake up as early as you, maybe around 7 o'clock.
You were lucky then. After breakfast, I used to walk to the bus stop. It was about a 10-minute walk from my house. I usually met my friends there and we talked together on the bus ride to school.
That sounds nice. I also took the bus to school, but sometimes my dad drove me if he had time in the morning.
At school, my days were full of different classes. Of course, my favorite subject was always English.
No surprise there. For me, I really enjoyed history and science lessons. And lunchtimes were always a special moment. We usually ate in the school cafeteria. The food wasn't always great, but it was a good chance to talk and spend time with friends.
Yes, I remember that very well. Sometimes school lunches were okay, and sometimes not so much.
After school, I normally went straight home and started working on my homework.
Same here. I also tried to finish my homework early so that I could enjoy the rest of the evening. Sometimes after school, I played sports with my friends, like football or basketball.
That sounds fun. I wasn't very sporty, so I usually stayed indoors, read books, or watched TV in the evenings.
In the evenings, we usually ate dinner together as a family. My mom cooked delicious meals. After dinner, I sometimes helped with the dishes, and then I either studied a bit more or watched some TV.
Our evenings sound quite similar. We also ate dinner together, and afterwards, I often spent time reading or talking with my family. I didn't stay up too late because I had to wake up early the next morning.
Same here. I usually went to bed around 10 o'clock on school nights because I really needed my sleep.
It's interesting how different our routines were, even though we were both students. It really shows that everyone's daily life in the past was unique in its own way.
Absolutely. And when we look back at those routines now, we can see how much our lives have changed and developed over time.
Now, let's talk about weekends in the past. What did your weekends usually look like when you were younger?
Weekends always felt a bit more special to me. I usually slept a little longer, and that already felt like a small reward. Sometimes my family and I went to visit relatives or friends. Other times we went to the park or to the cinema.
That sounds really nice. I also loved weekends when I was younger. I usually slept in as well, and I often spent a lot of time playing with my friends. We rode our bikes, played video games, or just spent time together outside.
Sometimes my family and I also went on short day trips, for example, to the beach or to the mountains. Those trips are some of my favorite memories.
Yes, it's interesting how our past routines played such an important role in our lives. The things we did regularly back then really influenced who we are today.
That's very true, Emily. And when we talk about our past routines, we use a lot of past simple verbs like woke up, went, played, studied, and many others.
Exactly. And we also often use the phrase used to talk about habits or routines that were true in the past but are not true anymore.
For example, I used to walk to the bus stop, but now I drive. Or she used to play the piano every day.
And if we want to say that we didn't have a habit in the past, we can use didn't plus base form. For example, I didn't used to like vegetables when I was a child.
That's a good example. Or we might say, he didn't go to bed early on weekends.
So, for our listeners, if you want to talk about your past routines, try to use past simple for actions, used to for old habits, and details to make your story interesting.
Yes, details make your story feel alive. Instead of saying, I ate breakfast, you could say, I ate a delicious bowl of oatmeal with fresh fruit.
That sounds much more descriptive and much more fun to listen to.
Exactly. And that is especially useful for English learners who want to improve their storytelling skills.
Now let's talk about another important part of our past daily routines, chores and responsibilities at home. David, what kind of chores did you have when you were younger?
Well, I had a few regular chores at home. I usually took out the trash, helped with the dishes after dinner, and tried to keep my room tidy. To be honest, I didn't always enjoy doing them, but I knew they were important.
I can relate to that. I also had some household chores. For example, I made my bed every morning, dusted the furniture, and sometimes helped my mom with the laundry. At that time, it sometimes felt boring, but later I realized that those chores helped me become more responsible.
Yes, that's a great point. Even though chores may seem small or boring, they actually teach us discipline, independence, and life skills that we continue to use as adults.
Now let's move to something more enjoyable, our free time in the past. What did you usually do when you had free time as a child?
I spent a lot of time outdoors. I played football with my friends in the park, rode my bike around the neighborhood, and sometimes we even built small forts or pretend houses in the woods. Those moments were full of fun and adventure.
That sounds wonderful. I was a bit different. I spent more time indoors. I loved reading books, drawing pictures, and playing board games with my family. Those activities helped me relax and sparked my imagination.
It's really interesting how different our hobbies were, but both of them were meaningful in their own way. It shows that everyone has their own unique way of spending free time.
Exactly. And many of those hobbies influenced our interests as adults and shaped our personalities.
So, for our listeners, when you talk about your past daily routines, don't forget to mention your chores, your hobbies, your free time activities. These details make your story richer, more engaging, and more enjoyable to listen to.
And try to use descriptive language. For example, instead of saying, I played with my friends, you can say, I played exciting games of tag with my friends in the park.
Or instead of saying, I read books, you could say, I read fascinating fantasy stories that took me to imaginary worlds.
Those kinds of details help listeners imagine the scene and feel more connected to your story.
Exactly, and they also help you practice richer vocabulary in English.
Great. Now let's talk more deeply about a typical school day in the past. David, can you describe what an ordinary school day looked like for you when you were younger?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I usually woke up quite early in the morning. After getting ready, I had a light breakfast and then took the bus to school. The bus ride normally took around 15 to 20 minutes.
And once you arrived at school, what was your day like?
We had different lessons throughout the day. math, science, history, and of course, English. During classes, I tried to pay close attention and I took lots of notes because I wanted to remember the important information.
What about break time? How did you usually spend it?
During breaks, I talked with my friends. Sometimes we walked around the schoolyard, and sometimes we played small games or simply chatted and laughed together.
And lunchtime?
Lunchtime was a bit longer. We ate in the school cafeteria, and it was also a chance to relax, talk, and socialize.
That sounds very relatable. Many of our listeners probably had similar school routines.
Yes, I think so. After the last lesson, I usually took the bus back home and then started my homework.
And after homework, did you have any after-school activities?
Yes, sometimes I did. For example, I took piano lessons twice a week. I really enjoyed playing the piano. On other days, I relaxed at home, read books, or watched TV.
That's great. Extracurricular activities are very useful. They help students develop new skills and discover their interests.
Absolutely. They also teach discipline, time management, and teamwork.
So, for our listeners, when you describe your past school routine, try to include your morning routine, your school day, your breaks and lunch, your after-school activities, and how you felt about them. Adding feelings makes your story much more meaningful and personal.
For example, you could say, I found math class quite challenging, but I felt proud when I solved a difficult problem.
Or, I loved music lessons because they made me feel relaxed and happy.
That kind of reflection helps you express emotions in English, not just actions.
Great. Now, let's move from weekdays to weekends in the past. Weekends were usually very different from school days, right?
Yes, absolutely. Weekends felt more relaxing and enjoyable. On Saturday mornings, I usually slept a little longer than usual, and that already felt like a small reward after a busy school week.
That sounds nice. What did you normally do after waking up?
After getting up, my family and I often had a slow, relaxing breakfast together. Sometimes we stayed at home, and sometimes we went out to visit relatives or friends.
And how did you usually spend your afternoons?
In the afternoons, I often met up with my friends. We went to the park, rode our bicycles, played games, or simply spent time together talking. Sometimes my family and I went on short day trips to places like the beach or the mountains.
Those sound like wonderful childhood memories.
Yes, they really are. Weekends gave us time to relax, recharge, and enjoy life outside of school.
What about Sundays? Were they different from Saturdays?
Yes, Sundays were usually calmer. Sometimes my family and I went to church in the morning, and afterward we often had a big family lunch at my grandparents' house.
And what did you usually do later in the day?
In the afternoon, I often read books or simply relaxed before the start of a new school week. Sometimes I also spent time preparing my school bag, books, and notebooks for the next day.
That's very relatable. Many families around the world have similar weekend routines. Time with family, time with friends, and time to rest.
Exactly. And when our listeners talk about their past weekend routines, they can make their stories stronger by including who they spent time with, where they went, what activities they enjoyed, how those moments felt.
Yes, adding emotions and details makes past tense storytelling more meaningful and engaging.
For example, I used to spend Sundays with my family, and those moments always felt warm and comforting.
Beautiful and also very natural English. Great. Now let's take a closer look at some useful grammar for talking about past routines. In this episode, we've been using the past simple tense quite a lot, right?
Yes, that's right. The past simple tense is very important when we describe activities that happened regularly in the past but are now finished. Words like woke up, went, studied, played, ate are all verbs in the past simple form.
Exactly. We use the past simple to talk about actions that happened at a specific time in the past. For example, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. I went to school by bus. I played football after school.
Yes, those are great examples. And we also often use the phrase used to when we talk about habits or routines that were true in the past but are not true anymore.
Right. So, used to helps us describe past habits. For example, I used to walk to the bus stop. She used to play the piano every day.
Exactly. These sentences tell us that the action was repeated in the past, it was a routine, but life has changed since then.
And sometimes we also want to say that we didn't do something regularly in the past.
Yes, in that case, we use didn't plus base form of the verb. For example, I didn't used to like vegetables. He didn't go to bed early on weekends.
Those are really useful structures for our listeners.
Yes, and when they talk about their own past daily routines, they should try to use the past simple for completed actions and use used to for old habits or routines that have changed.
And to make their stories more interesting and natural, they can also add feelings, descriptions, and small details. Instead of saying, I ate breakfast, they could say, I ate a delicious bowl of oatmeal with fresh fruit.
Yes, that sounds much richer and more engaging.
So, listeners, don't be afraid to talk about your past routines with details and emotions.
Exactly. Your experiences make your English stories unique and meaningful.
Now, let's move on to another part of our past daily routines, chores and free time activities from our childhood. What kinds of household tasks did you have to do when you were younger?
Well, I had several chores at home. I usually took out the trash, helped with the dishes after dinner, and kept my room tidy. To be honest, I didn't always enjoy doing them, but I understood that they were important and they taught me responsibility.
I can relate to that. I also had chores when I was younger. For example, I made my bed every morning, dusted the furniture, and sometimes helped my mom with the laundry. Even though I didn't always like it, those chores helped me learn discipline and independence.
That's very true. Chores may feel boring sometimes, but they teach us useful life skills that stay with us as adults.
Now, let's talk about something more enjoyable, free time in the past. What did you usually do in your free time when you were a child?
I spent a lot of time outdoors. I played football with my friends in the park, rode my bike around the neighborhood, and sometimes we even built small forts in the woods. Those were really fun and active days.
That sounds great. I was a bit more of an indoor person. I loved reading books, drawing pictures, and playing board games with my family.
It's interesting how different our hobbies were, but both experiences were meaningful in their own way.
Exactly. Our childhood activities and routines helped shape our interests, personalities, and passions later in life.
So, for our listeners, when you talk about your past routines, don't forget to include what chores you had, what hobbies you enjoyed, and how you spent your free time. These details make your stories more colorful and engaging.
And remember, try to use descriptive language. Instead of saying, I played with my friends, you could say, I played exciting games with my friends in the park.
Or instead of, I read books, you might say, I read fascinating adventure stories. These descriptions help bring your memories to life.
Great. Now let's talk about a typical school day in the past. Can you describe what your normal school day looked like when you were younger?
Sure, as I mentioned earlier, I usually woke up around 7 a.m. I quickly got ready, had a light breakfast, and then took the bus to school. The bus ride normally took about 20 minutes.
And what was your school day like after you arrived?
We had different classes throughout the day, subjects like math, science, history, and of course, English.
I try to pay close attention in class and I took a lot of notes because it helped me understand the lessons better.
And what did you usually do during breaks?
During short breaks, I talked with my friends, and sometimes we played simple games together. Lunchtime was a longer break. We had time to eat, relax a little, and socialize.
That sounds very similar to many students' school experiences. And what happened after the last class of the day?
After school, I went back home on the bus, and the first thing I usually did was my homework. Sometimes I'd try to finish it quickly so I could enjoy the rest of the evening.
That's a good habit. What about after-school activities? Did you take part in any?
Yes, sometimes I did. I took piano lessons twice a week, and I really enjoyed playing the piano. On other days, I relaxed at home, read books, or watched TV.
That sounds nice. I also had some extracurricular activities. For example, I played football 3 times a week, and on Thursdays, I went to the Scouts. Those activities helped me stay active and social.
Yes, after-school activities are very useful. They teach teamwork, discipline, and help us discover our strengths and interests.
So, for our listeners, when you describe your past school routine, try to include what time you woke up, how you got to school, what subjects you studied, what you did during breaks, and your after-school activities.
And don't forget to talk about how you felt. For example, I found math class challenging, but I felt proud when I solved difficult problems.
Or, I loved playing the piano because it made me feel relaxed and happy. Sharing your feelings makes your story more personal and meaningful. Great. Now let's talk about weekends in the past. Weekends often feel different from school or work days. They are usually more relaxed and more enjoyable. What did your weekends look like when you were younger?
Weekends were always special for me. I usually woke up a bit later than on school days, and that already felt like a nice reward. Sometimes my family and I visited relatives or friends, and other times we went to the park or the cinema.
That sounds really nice. I also loved weekends. I often spent a lot of time playing with my friends. We rode our bikes, played video games, or just hung out together.
Yes, weekends gave us more freedom to do the things we enjoyed. Sometimes my family and I went on small day trips to the beach or to the mountains. Those are memories I still treasure today.
I agree. It's interesting to think about how our weekend routines helped shape our childhood experiences and even our personalities.
That's true. The things we did regularly, our habits, hobbies, and family traditions, all played a role in who we eventually became.
So, for our listeners, when you talk about your past weekends, try to include details like, did you sleep in? Did you visit family or friends? Did you spend time outdoors? Did you relax or study?
Yes, and you can also talk about your emotions and feelings. For example, I loved weekends because they felt peaceful and relaxing. Or I usually felt happy because I spent more time with my family.
Adding these kinds of details makes your story more interesting and helps you practice real, natural English.
Exactly, and it also encourages you to think about your past in a deeper and more meaningful way.
Great. Now let's take a closer look at the grammar we've been using throughout this conversation. When we talk about past routines, we mostly use the past simple and the phrase used to.
Yes, that's right. The past simple is used for actions that happened at a specific time in the past. For example, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. I went to school by bus. We ate lunch in the cafeteria.
Exactly. These are actions that happened regularly in the past, but they are still expressed in the past simple tense.
Now, used to is especially helpful when we talk about past habits or routines that we don't do anymore. For example, I used to walk to the bus stop. She used to play the piano every day. We used to spend weekends at my grandparents' house.
And when we want to say that something was not a habit in the past, we use didn't used to. For example, I didn't used to like vegetables. He didn't used to go to bed early.
Yes, that structure helps us show how our habits and lifestyles have changed over time.
And here's an important learning tip for our listeners. Try talking about your own past using both forms. For example, I used to wake up late on weekends. I played football with my friends after school. I didn't enjoy homework, but I do now.
That's a great exercise because when you talk about your own life, English becomes more meaningful and easier to remember.
You can even write a short paragraph about your childhood routine, your mornings, your school day, your hobbies, and your weekends.
Yes, and try to include past simple, used to, didn't used to, and time expressions.
This will help you improve both your grammar and your storytelling skills in English.
And most importantly, don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning. They show that you're practicing and making progress.
Now, let's take a moment to reflect on something important. When we look back at our past routines, our school days, our hobbies, our weekends, and daily habits, we can see how much those experiences shaped who we are today.
Yes, that's so true. The things we used to do regularly, studying, helping at home, spending time with family and friends, all of these small routines helped us develop discipline, responsibility, and life skills.
Exactly. Even simple habits like waking up early, doing homework after school, or helping with chores taught us values such as time management, teamwork, patience, and independence.
And when we think about our past routines, we also realize how much our lives have changed over time. For example, we used to be students, now we work. We used to ride the school bus, now we commute to work. We used to have homework, now we have real responsibilities.
Yes, and reflecting on the past can also help us appreciate our current life more. It reminds us that we have grown, we have learned, we have become stronger and wiser.
And for our listeners, this is also a great opportunity to practice English through self-reflection. You can ask yourself, what did my daily routine look like in the past? What habits did I used to have? Which activities helped me grow?
You can even try saying things like, when I was younger, I used to. Back then, my daily routine was. Those experiences helped me.
This not only improves your speaking skills, but also helps you tell meaningful stories about your own life in English.
Exactly, because language learning is not only about grammar and vocabulary, it's also about memories, experiences, and personal growth.
And when you talk about your past with confidence, you're not just practicing English, you're building your identity as an English speaker.
So, as we come to the end of today's episode, we hope this conversation about past daily routines has helped our listeners understand how to talk about their own experiences using the past simple tense and the phrase used to.
Yes, and we also hope that it encouraged you to think about your own childhood, your school days, your hobbies, and the routines you used to follow.
Because every routine, every habit, every small daily action played a role in shaping the person you are today.
And when you share these stories in English, you are not just practicing grammar. You are sharing your life, your memories, your personal journey.
Exactly. And remember, there is no perfect English speaker. Learning a language is a journey, and every step you take, every podcast you listen to, every sentence you speak, every mistake you correct brings you closer to fluency.
So don't be afraid to practice. Talk about your life. Tell your stories. Use English in real situations. You are learning, and that already means you are making progress.
And we truly want to say thank you so much for spending your time with us today here on Mr. Daily Speak English.
Your support means a lot to us, and we are always happy to help you grow in your English journey.
Before we finish, just a small reminder. If you enjoyed this episode and found it useful, please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments.
We'd love to read about your own past routines, what you used to do when you were younger.
Yes, tell us your stories. They help other learners too, because we all grow together.
Thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Until then, keep practicing your English, stay motivated, and have a wonderful day.
Bye for now. Take care, everyone.